Okay, so Tucker Carlson just dropped some absolutely wild information about what happened to Justin Bieber when he was literally 15 years old, and I don't know how true this is, but people are losing their minds over this revelation because allegedly what went down in those early days is way darker than anyone ever wanted to admit. Word around the block is that when Justin was just this innocent kid from Canada posting covers on YouTube, there were already predators circling, and the industry was ready to chew him up and spit him out. And honestly, after hearing all this, so much of his behavior over the years suddenly makes sense in the most heartbreaking way possible. So reportedly, Tucker came out talking about how this teenage boy was thrust into this Hollywood machine with basically no protection, no real parental oversight that mattered, and surrounded by adults who allegedly had very questionable intentions. And people online are saying that there were specific incidents at parties, specific people who got way too close to this child, and the receipts are starting to surface in ways that are making everyone extremely uncomfortable. Ladies, imagine if this was your 15-year-old son being passed around these industry parties where grown men and women are allegedly doing God knows what, and nobody's stepping in to say this is wrong, this kid needs protection. This is literally a child we're talking about. And trust me, this connects to so much of the messy public drama we've seen from Justin over the years, because think about it. This is the same kid who went from being America's sweetheart with the swoopy hair and the innocent smile to suddenly getting arrested, spitting on fans, peeing in mop buckets, getting into fights, and spiraling completely out of control. And everyone was like, oh, he's just a spoiled brat. He's just another child star gone wrong. But allegedly there was so much more happening behind the scenes that nobody wanted to talk about because it would expose how rotten this industry really is. People are pointing to those old clips of Justin with Diddy, and I don't know how true this is, but the way Diddy talked about spending 48 hours with teenage Justin and how they can't discuss what they did together. Guys, tell me why that doesn't sit right with anyone watching it now. Like that clip has resurfaced and people are analyzing every word, every uncomfortable laugh, every weird moment. And reportedly Tucker is saying that these weren't just innocent mentor relationships. These were situations where a child was being groomed and manipulated by people who had all the power. But wait till you hear what happened next, because allegedly Justin tried to speak out in his own way through his music, through cryptic Instagram posts, through breaking down in interviews, and everyone just wrote it off as him being emotional or dramatic. But word around the block is that he was literally crying for help and nobody was listening because the machine was making too much money off him to care about his actual well-being. Remember when he broke down crying during that Purpose tour and had to cancel shows because of exhaustion and mental health? And everyone clicked their tongues like, oh, celebrities are so weak, they can't handle the pressure. But reportedly, this was a young man dealing with serious trauma from what happened to him as a literal child. And trust me, this part will blow your mind, because people are connecting this to his relationship with Selena Gomez and how toxic that whole situation was, not because of Selena, necessarily, but because allegedly Justin was using that relationship to try to feel normal, to have something pure in his life when everything else had been corrupted. And reportedly, he would have these extreme mood swings, these trust issues, this inability to be stable. And everyone blamed him for being a bad boyfriend, but word around the block is that this was unprocessed trauma from being abused in the industry when he was too young to even understand what was happening to him. Ladies, imagine being in a relationship with someone who's dealing with that level of damage and not even knowing the full story. And reportedly Selena saw things, heard things, knew things about what Justin went through, but she couldn't speak publicly about it because of NDAs, because of industry pressure, because speaking up would have destroyed both their careers. People online are saying that's why their relationship was so on and off. Why Justin would ghost her for months then come crawling back. Why he seemed so desperate for her approval and love. Because allegedly she represented something innocent and real in a world that had stolen his innocence before he even hit puberty. And then you've got the Hailey Baldwin situation, now Hailey Bieber. And I don't know how true this is, but people are saying that Justin married Hailey so fast after the final Selena breakup because he was trying to create stability, trying to find someone who didn't know him during those traumatic years, someone from the industry who understood the game, but allegedly wasn't there for the worst of what he experienced. Word around the block is that Hailey has been helping him process a lot of this trauma, that she's been his rock through therapy and healing. But reportedly, even she didn't know the full extent of what happened to 15-year-old Justin until recently, when more information started coming out. But wait, it gets even messier because allegedly there are specific names being whispered, specific producers, specific managers, specific industry executives who had inappropriate access to teenage Justin. And reportedly some of these people are still powerful in Hollywood today, still working with young artists, still in positions where they can do the same thing to the next vulnerable kid who just wants to make music. Guys, tell me why we keep letting this happen. Why every few years another child star comes forward with horror stories about what happened to them, and we act shocked but then nothing changes. Nobody gets held accountable, and the machine just keeps churning. People are pointing to Justin's friendship with Jaden Smith, and how allegedly both of them went through similar experiences with predatory adults in the industry, and reportedly that's why they bonded so hard. That's why you'd see them together all the time during those wild years, because they were the only ones who truly understood what the other had survived. Word around the block is that Will and Jada actually tried to protect Justin at some points, tried to give him a safe space, but allegedly he was so deep in the manipulation that he didn't even realize he needed protecting. And trust me, this connects to why Justin has been so open about his faith in recent years, why he's constantly talking about Jesus and redemption and healing, because reportedly religion became his lifeline when everything else failed, when therapy wasn't enough, when the drugs and the acting out and the rebellion couldn't numb the pain anymore. Ladies, imagine being so broken by what adults did to you as a child that you have to completely reconstruct your sense of self and your sense of safety through faith just to survive. And people mock him for being too religious now, for posting too many Bible verses, but allegedly, this is literally how he's staying alive and sane. But wait till you hear what Tucker specifically exposed, because reportedly he has sources who were there, people who witnessed inappropriate behavior, people who allegedly tried to intervene and were shut down, threatened, paid off, or pushed out of Justin's circle by the very people who were exploiting him. Word around the block is that Scooter Braun, Justin's longtime manager, allegedly knew about a lot of this but was more concerned with the money and the brand than with protecting a child. And I don't know how true this is, but people online are saying that's the real reason Justin eventually dropped Scooter after so many years. Not just creative differences, but because allegedly, he finally realized how much he'd been failed by the people who were supposed to protect him. And trust me, this part will absolutely blow your mind, because there are allegedly text messages, there are allegedly videos, there are allegedly witnesses who are finally ready to speak up now that Justin is in a more stable place and has the support system to handle the fallout. Reportedly, Tucker has some of these receipts, and he's hinting that this is just the tip of the iceberg, that what happened to Justin is part of a much larger pattern in the entertainment industry of vulnerable young performers being exploited by powerful adults who know they can get away with it. Guys, tell me why we all watched this happen in real time and did nothing. Why we bought the magazines that mocked him, why we laughed at the mugshots, why we called him a brat and a punk instead of asking why a child who was so talented and so sweet turned into someone so angry and reckless so quickly. Allegedly, it's because he was screaming for help in the only way he knew how, by acting out, by pushing boundaries, by making everyone uncomfortable because he was so uncomfortable in his own skin after what had been done to him. People are also bringing up that weird period where Justin was basically living with grown men who were known party animals, where he was allegedly being supplied with drugs and alcohol as a teenager, where there were no responsible adults saying this is wrong, this kid needs structure and protection and boundaries. Word around the block is that some of these people are now panicking because Tucker's exposure is making people look back at old photos, old videos, old social media posts with fresh eyes, and suddenly everyone's asking the hard questions about who was around teenage Justin and what exactly was happening. And trust me, this is just the beginning, because reportedly this is going to open up a much larger conversation about how the music industry treats young performers, about how there are basically no real protections in place, about how kids are turned into cash cows and their well-being is secondary to profit margins. Ladies, imagine if your daughter got discovered at 13, and within 2 years was a global superstar being controlled by adults who saw her as a product, not a person. And allegedly that's exactly what happened to Justin, except everyone was too blinded by the fame and the success to notice the damage being done. But wait till you hear how this connects to other child stars who've spoken out, because allegedly Corey Feldman has been trying to expose this for years. saying there are predators in Hollywood who specifically target young boys, and people dismissed him as crazy or bitter. But word around the block is that everything Corey said was true, and Justin's story is just more confirmation of how deep and systemic this problem really is. Guys, tell me why we keep ignoring the victims until it's too late, until they've already been destroyed by the trauma. Reportedly, Justin has been in intense therapy dealing with PTSD, dealing with trust issues, dealing with the reality that his childhood was stolen from him by people who were supposed to nurture his talent, not exploit his vulnerability, and allegedly Haley has been his absolute rock through all of this, creating a safe, stable home environment where he can finally process everything without the chaos and the enablers and the predators circling. And believe me, this is just the beginning, because word around the block is that more people are going to speak up, more receipts are going to surface, and allegedly some very powerful people in the music industry are absolutely terrified right now about what might come out. People online are saying that Tucker dropping this information is the match that's going to light a fire, and reportedly we're about to see a reckoning in how the entertainment industry treats young performers, or at least we should if anyone actually cares about protecting children more than protecting profits and reputations. But here's the thing that's really getting people heated. Allegedly, all of this was an open secret. People in the industry knew. People adjacent to Justin's team knew. Maybe even some fans who were paying attention knew something was very wrong, but nobody with real power did anything to stop it, because the Justin Bieber brand was worth billions, and you don't kill the golden goose even if the goose is being abused. Ladies, imagine knowing a child is being harmed and choosing money over morality, and reportedly that's exactly what happened over and over again during those crucial years. And trust me, when you look back at those old interviews where Justin seems disconnected or high or angry, allegedly now we know why. Now we understand that this wasn't just teenage rebellion. This was trauma response. This was a kid trying to cope with horrors that no 15-year-old should ever experience. Word around the block is that the full story is even darker than what Tucker has revealed so far, and people are bracing for more bombshells to drop, because allegedly this is far from over and Justin's story is about to blow the lid off an industry that has been protecting predators for decades.